Welcome. This video is on the Wellbeing bank account. So the Wellbeing bank account is an analogy for helping us understand our well-being, if you like, and why it's important to top up our well-being and not just take it for granted. So the first point I would like to make is that, it's good to realize that it's normal to have ups and downs in life. So it's important not to take our well-being for granted. So it's good to invest wisely into our bank account, if you like. So if we think of our well-being like a bank account, and we just put away little bits over time, and this can really pay off later on if we come across an unexpected event or something that pops up. So we have some reserves to draw on. So that's the first point. It's important not to take our well-being for granted. The second point, it's important also to do everything we can to avoid overdraft. So if we take too many withdrawals from our bank accounts, we can end up in overdraft. And so what happens is, we have moments of, or even like days or weeks of stressful experiences, and we have knockbacks. And, naturally, we kind of have to draw on our reserves. So our natural supply of well-being becomes depleted. And if we make too many withdrawals, we end up in overdraft, and we really want to do everything we can to avoid this place, because with our well-being, if we end up in this place of overdraft after making too many withdrawals, we get very depleted, and we might end up quite low or depressed, if you like, or need a bit of extra support to get back on track through a therapist or whatever, or a good friend. And so the important point here is that it's good to try and do everything we can not to get to that place. Yeah? And so the third point I wanted to make is that the best time to lock in our well-being habits is when we are doing well. Not when we're depleted, because it's really tricky when we're already there. So this is really important. The time to work on our well-being and really take in the good is when we're well. And so let's talk about what tops up our well-being and how we can do that. So we all kind of know things that drain our well-being, like having a lack of sleep and feeling overcommitted and always feeling tired. And, we start to get this narrative when we're in this place, like there's never enough time, and, there's always so much to do, or, I'll be happy when I get to this point. So we're never really happy in the moment. And so, we all might have these sort of narratives creep in from time to time. And it's good to do things like yoga so we can become aware when we're in this place. And we have the power within us, these tools, to plant inner strengths. Through yoga, we practice mindfulness. We get more perspective. We feel less overwhelmed. We create space and a pause, and we get better clarity of mind. So yoga is one great way of topping up our well-being, and there's many more. And I also wanted to attribute this well-being bank account analogy to the work of Hugh Norris, who does a lot of work in the space of well-being and research, and has helped work on various programs around New Zealand, especially with farmers and other workplaces actually. So Hugh talks about this well-being bank account analogy and how important it is. There's lots of research around why it's important to top up our well-being and how we can do that. So these are all research-based tips, and the reason I say that is because it's just good to know that what we're going to commit to with our new habits really works. So healthy thinking is one really good way of topping up our well-being. It's normal to come across problems, but how can we look at that from a different perspective and see the opportunity and, really have some insight and some wisdom in this situation, rather than just getting carried away with the emotive part or the thinking part, too much in our head or too much in our emotions. We want to get that nice insight and wisdom and perspective and compassion, healthy thinking, and not comparing ourselves to others. So with the Instagram and Facebook and all the things on social media these days, it's really good to just be aware that that's kind of training us to think that life is a certain way, and actually comparing ourselves to others can be a really unhealthy way to live our lives. So it's important to just be with yourself and find your inner strengths. And so how do we do that? We build small habits into our life. So that's another way, mini habits. Maybe it's just adding some greens to your dinner, starting really small. What can I do in the next moment of my day that's going to help me? Maybe it's lying on your back with your legs up the wall. Waterfall pose. One of my favorite ways to take a pause and go inwards. Put my legs up on the couch, I close my eyes, and I set my timer for 12 minutes so I'm not distracted by anything else. That's my time for me. And I just focus on my breath. And when my mind wanders, I bring my awareness back to my breath. So something as little as 10 or 12 minutes a day can really boost our well-being. Getting quality sleep, how do we prioritize that? It can sort of seem easier said than done, and this comes up a lot in workshops and things, and people write whole books on this, but the key message is that it's good to focus on what relaxes you. Find what relaxes you, and it's different for everyone. But maybe it's the soothing sound of running water, finding some white noise, and really setting up your sleep habits, maybe a hot shower, and making sure you're getting your exercise, and all that can lead to better sleep. So that's a pretty significant habit we can work on to help change our well-being in a really great way. Staying active, going for walks, start small. It's okay to just go for a walk for your well-being, rather than I need to do a high intensity workout. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But let's just focus on, little bits at a time to really top up our well-being bank account, just a little bit at a time. Clarifying your purpose. So the research tells us that those who have clarity of purpose are more resilient in life, because when those setbacks come, we're more likely to bounce back because we have this bigger purpose to work towards. Learning and personal growth. You can probably notice here, these are some of the values of yoga that cross over with the science of well-being. So this is really beautiful. So, having a commitment to learning. I love to listen to podcasts on well-being and feeling inspired by others. If you don't have people around you close by, it's okay to find people, in podcasts and books who are from overseas, and you can feel quite close to the inspiration. Hopefully you've enjoyed some of the podcasts and little bits of research I've been sharing with you. And then the last point I wanted to make about how to top up our well-being is really taking notice and soaking in the good. So this is about the simple pleasures. So you might have heard about gratitude or, finding stillness. And there's a guy we've mentioned called Dr. Rick Hanson. He's a neuroscientist, and he really talks about how it's possible to rewire our brain for well-being simply by taking in everyday ordinary experiences. So, it's good to think about, is there something around you right now where you can use your senses and notice the colours of the sky, or the sensation of the air against your skin, or something as simple as being alive and how lucky we are that we were actually born. It's pretty amazing when you think about these small miracles in life. So cultivating these little moments and taking notice, even for a minute in your day, this is topping up our well-being. All right, so those are the 3 points on the Wellbeing bank account. Life will have its ups and downs, so it's good not to take our well-being for granted. And it's important to do everything we can to avoid overdraft. And the best time to lock in our well-being habits is when we are well, when we're actually doing pretty well. And lastly, I wanted to say that there's this thing called interest. So the same with our well-being, when we're topping it up and we have some pretty good habits, our cup becomes overflowing. So we're feeling so good, then we can give to others in a meaningful way. So this is what we'd call flourishing or thriving in life. So it's pretty good to know that, it's not just for when we're struggling. It's important to do this, as a way of life so that we can thrive and live a really happy and meaningful life. And the Harvard Medical School talks about those who have, a nice level of well-being in their life are more likely to be able to focus better and be more productive at work and be able to problem solve better and, can even have a better immune system. So it's really nice to know the science to help motivate us to work on this stuff. So the key message: it's important to plant the seeds of inner strengths by repeatedly taking in the good. So this is why this course is about growing the good within us, planting our seeds of inner strengths by repeatedly taking in the good and growing our well-being bank account. Thank you for listening. Namaste.